The 80-20 ratio, the secret to appreciating your marriage. 1 Corinthians 7:28, but those who marry will have trouble in this life. In the book of Corinthians, Paul warns us of the responsibilities, involvements, and yes, the troubles that come with marriage. When I quote 1 Corinthians 7:28 at our conferences, many in the audience chuckle as if they understand perfectly what Paul is saying. Something else that is tied to this idea of trouble in marriage is what I call the 80-20 ratio. According to this concept, around 80% of the time your marriage can be categorized as good or even great, while around 20% of the time you may have troubles of one kind or another. I arbitrarily choose 20% to make my point. For some couples it can be less or it can be more. It depends on many factors and can vary from week to week. I cannot put a precise number on the amount of trouble you may have in your marriage, but what I do know is that God does not promise a fulfilling, trouble-free relationship 100% of the time. I heard one man say he and his wife had 28 happy years, then they met and got married. Disagreements and misunderstandings happen. Stress comes from without and within. If we do not accept the inevitability of some trouble as part of God's design, that we will have moments when we feel unloved or disrespected, we may fall for the idea that a marriage should always be the perfect Hollywood romance, and then when troubles do come, we may conclude that we are not receiving what we deserve. If we would expect 100% fulfillment, we will be prepared to deal with the moments when we feel unfulfilled or worse. We will grow discontented and resentful, and if we let these feelings dwell in our minds, it is not much of a jump to wondering if we made a mistake by marrying in the first place. My point is simple. It is all too easy to focus on the 20%, the irritations and annoyances, and forget that 80% of the time things go quite well or even better than that. That pesky 20% of trouble turns out to be the leaven that leavens the whole lump. Galatians 5:9. My solution is simple. Do not live by standards of Hollywood. Trust what God says in His holy word. Treasure your marriage like a bottle of the kind of expensive perfume women might like for Christmas, and don't let a few imperfections be like the dead flies that can give perfume a bad smell. God gives you a meaningful lover-friend relationship. Don't let the 20%, those times when one or both of you is tired, irritable, or just plain having a bad day or moment, for whatever reason, sabotage your marriage. My 80-20 ratio idea is an aha moment for a lot of people. When filling out a conference feedback form, they mentioned how enlightening the 80-20 ratio was and had comments like, I realize I have a better marriage than I thought, or maybe my expectations of a perfect marriage were unrealistic. Sarah agrees. She well recalls that early in our marriage she was concerned, not because we had major conflicts, but because the normal daily stuff was getting to her. To put it biblically, the little foxes were spoiling our marital vineyard just as it was trying to bloom. See Song of Solomon 2:15. We continued to have our bumps, and Sarah continued to express her bewilderment about these tensions. Then one day I said to her, Sarah, you want everything to be perfect, but paradise has been lost. Sin is in the world. 80% of what we experience can be wonderful. However, 20% will be troubling. If you don't grasp that, you will poison the 80% that's good. Sarah says my little speech changed her entire view of marriage. The 80-20 ratio helped her realize there is no perfect relationship, and this came as a huge freedom for her, just as it did for me. We still have our 20% of troubles, but we just stop and remember that the 80% is really the big picture, and the big picture is what really counts. Thank the Lord for all the trouble-free moments in which you and your spouse enjoy Him, each other, your family, your ministry, and life as a whole. Ask Him for the strength to accept your measure of trouble and the wisdom to deal with the annoyances and irritations by loving and respecting each other with new commitment. You may also want to pray about the troubles at work, at church, or with the children, all of which affect how you handle the 20% in your marriage. Say in the face of a troubling moment, "Look, we will get through this brief storm. This is part of the 20%. Smooth sailing awaits us. For now, let's hang on to our hats."